I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Today is Monday, August 14th. My, does the time go fast? School's about to start again. Summer has come and gone, but we're enjoying and celebrating the wonderful rain we got in the past couple of days. We've been in drought-like conditions here in Minnesota, it seems, and got a wonderful deluge that's refreshing and restorative for our community. So we're thankful for that. Well, we want to thank you for tuning in wherever you are. We stream this program across several platforms. You may be connecting through the YouTube page of the Black Press of America, Black Press USA, or the YouTube page for Insight News, YouTube, insightnewsmn.com. You could be connecting with us from our Facebook channel, Al McFarlane Personal Channel, the Insight News Facebook channel, Black Press USA Facebook channel. We're also streaming on Twitter and on LinkedIn. Wherever you are, we want to connect with you. We're glad that you have found us. We want you to support the growth of this channel or this program, and we're directing everybody to try to log in, be a member of the Conversation with Al McFarlane by subscribing at the YouTube Inside News MN channel. We've got about 500 subscribers now. It's wonderful. We're grateful. Our goal is 1,000. And when each of you subscribes, it moves us one click closer to our goal of 1,000 subscribers, and we go from there. Well, as always, we want to begin by thanking our partners over at the Minnesota Department of Health. We all want to remind you that, COVID is still around. The pandemic is declared over, but in recent days, we've seen an uptick, not only around the country, but here in Minnesota as well. And so for that reason, we want to keep alerting you to different flu and COVID vaccine clinics, one coming up in a series of them over at CAPI IOC at 5930 Brooklyn Boulevard in Brooklyn Center. And they have flu shot dates coming up on the 24th of August, September 14th, 27th, and October 12th. Anyone 6 months and older can get a flu shot. You can get a COVID-19 vaccination there as well. So check them out. Let's make sure that we keep encouraging ourselves and everyone to get vaccinated and to practice the protocols that will keep us safe. Well, with that, let me move on to the program for today. And I'm pleased to bring in a friend and a person that I look up to because he's so full of information, knowledge, so connected to everybody and everything. And I got a note about an event that he's connected to and passionate about, and that is the 26th Street Art Project. And Sean Lewis is here. Sean, brother, how you doing, man?
Fine, Al. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. Good to see you as always. And I always appreciate so much the work you do, keeping all of us connected and both in tuned and attuned. And I want to bring on your colleague and worker, Tom Evers, who's executive director of the Minneapolis Parks Foundation, where you serve as project coordinator. And Tom, how you doing, man?
Good to see you. Thank you for
good to see you. Thank you both for being here. I got some time just to learn about all things parks, but I want to talk particularly, use the entryway of the 26th Street project. It's a big deal. And you've got a big announcements and completions of parts of the project. Sean, tell us what's going on.
Yeah, there was a little bit of delay, but hopefully this week, either late this afternoon or tomorrow this afternoon, there is a mural that is going to be near one of the areas that we have been focused on. It's called the 26th Avenue North Overlook. And so 26th Avenue North runs east-west, and the overlook is on the east side of the Mississippi River. And the trail or the corridor, 26th Avenue corridor, you can drive, you can walk, you can bike, you can skate, you can jog. It travels westward all the way over to Theater Worth Park. And basically, the 26th Street Overlook was created because North Minneapolis has been disconnected from the Mississippi River. And this is an effort in which the Parks Foundation has been working very hard along the Mississippi River to connect people to it. And there's been discussions about the North Minneapolis community not being able to access the river, not be able to enjoy the river. And so the overlook makes that possible. And that project was completed a few years ago. And the most important thing is to get people to be aware, to enjoy, and to experience that location. And part of that is trying to activate that corridor. And what we decided to do was work with Juxta Arts Position to do a mural on a fence that's near the 26th Avenue overlook. And so that's what's being done. And we're excited that Juxta and their youth apprentice are making this mural possible. I was just over there just this a few hours to take a look at it, and I've been very happy with the progress that's being made.
The project is called the 26th Avenue North Overlook, right? And it's part of a larger vision. I think it's called Above the Falls Regional Park as a grand vision. And I think it also is connected to a project called River First, which is a generational vision for transforming the 11 miles of a once industrial Mississippi riverfront into a welcoming place for all people through improved habitat and miles of interconnected parks and trails. Well, Tom, let me ask you to talk about that vision. Explain all of that and invite people to embrace it and engage.
Thank you. And, Al, before I will just note, I share the same deep respect and appreciation for all that Sean does in the community. We're lucky to have him as part of our team, but he has been a connector and for all things and keeping people connected with all the different ideas that are happening. And he's been working on our behalf and leading this project at the Great Northern, the 26th Avenue Overlook. And you're right. So he did a good job in summarizing that the Overlook is part of a much broader vision that the Park Board and the Parks Foundation and the community have been striving for in reconnecting the neighborhoods on the north and northeast side of the city along the river back to the river. And it's a series of projects that are under what's called River First that stretch from the Upper Harbor, which is there's some work happening on there. It's 50 acres in North Minneapolis, down through this section, which is in the sort of the heart of the industrial part of the riverfront. And then there's Graco Park, which is over on the other side where the old Shear lumber yard used to be, just north of Plymouth Avenue. There's the interconnected trails, and it goes all the way down to the falls and the waterworks site, which is now open and operating. This site, the Overlook, though, is really several things are happening at this moment. So it's really great to be able to talk about them. And as Sean had noted, is that one is you have a trail that exists, but up until the Overlook was installed, led to nowhere. It literally led to a chain link fence. And us working with the city and the park board, the Juxtaposition Arts, Formula Architects that folks may be familiar with, and 10 by 10 created a destination at the end of the trail, which is an overlook. There's netting that people can sit in, kind of like a hammock, and it looks out onto the river. It really is just using the right of way. But to kind of celebrate that, we asked Juxta this year to help put some art in place that might draw people down to kind of experience this, because people might not be familiar with the space, and we want to make it's a welcoming public space. So we want people to go down there, but it's still surrounded by industry. And so the Juxtaposition Arts students explored the meaning of this area, the history, and they settled on the word river view, not just because this is a place to view the river, but also because the historic nightclub that existed at where now is Ole Olson Park, they wanted to give homage to what was a significant center for the community at one point in North Minneapolis. So they in partnership with Centerpoint Energy, which also have been really helpful, they provided all the found materials. They created a word installation that highlights the word Riverview in sort of a three-dimensional design along the Great Northern Greenway. And Sean has been doing the work in connecting with Centerpoint Energy, connecting Juxtaposition, building those relationships. I'll also note the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization helps sponsor this as well. So that is happening. The overlook's in place. If you get on the trail on anywhere on 26th Avenue, if you turn east and head to the river, you'll be greeted by this really cool artistic installation and a great view of the river. Good chance you'll see an eagle or a great blue heron because there's a rookery right around there. The other news that is coming out that the park board just 2 weeks ago approved an easement, which they will put a trail in from the overlook. So in a year from now, that trail will then extend south. So it'll connect to Ole Olson Park, and you'll be able to bike from North Minneapolis along this trail into downtown on dedicated bike and pedestrian trails, which is a huge connection to North Minneapolis. Up until now, you had sort of the trail system that most of Minneapolis enjoys ended at Ole Olson Park.
Roughly at Broadway, or roughly just north of Broadway, right?
Yes, exactly. Thank you for putting context. Just north of Broadway, it sort of ends in a cul-de-sac. And they just have got a donation from one of the concrete companies to allow them to build a permanent trail with that easement connecting Ole Olson, so Broadway to 26th Avenue North.
That's wonderful. Yeah, Sean, jump in here, man. You know, how important is it and how wonderful is it that we begin to reorient our own neighborhoods, our community, our people, to understand that we are equity players, that we are owners of the beauty of our community, and that we should expect of ourselves and of our neighborhood that we create and maintain and utilize spaces and processes that provide recreation, relaxation, healing, and a vision of what kind of community and people we want to be. What do you think, Sean?
Well, Al, you're right on point, and I would add something that I think people may sometimes don't think about. I was listening to a democracy that called After Sherman, and it was going along the Mississippi River, and it was talking about the Gullah people. And the most interesting things about this film is that water has meaning to people of African descent. You know, when you think of water, there's several key things that can come to mind: the Middle Passage, slavery, Emancipation Proclamation, the Civil Rights Movement. The water still runs deep like your family tree, and we are water people. So connecting us to the largest river in the United States, the Mississippi River, is critical. And Northside Minneapolis, it's a very diverse community and heavy concentration of Black people, has been overlooked. So we're making an attempt to reconnect to our past, reconnect to our roots, just like I mentioned about the tree. And being outdoors is so important to your physical health, to your mental health, and enjoying nature either by yourself, with your family, with friends, coworkers. And so this is an opportunity for individuals that work in North Minneapolis, live in North Minneapolis, visit North Minneapolis, to have a different experience, or I would say actually a more enhanced experience by going along that trail that connects Theodore Wirth Park and the Mississippi River, experiencing the overlook, and then definitely artwork that's along the 26th Avenue that Juxta has been involved is important. So you've got the river view, the 3D wording of that, and thinking about the view and thinking about the river view. And I know, Al, I'm sure you're part of the group that I'm part. You know, we visited the river view. We
That
watched
was our place, man.
yeah, it was our place. It was us. It was our spot. And this is a way of reminding people and connecting people to that place that was central to our community and our development. And I know people did networking there, dancing, party, birthdays, you name it, it was happening there. And I shared this with some of the family members of one is the executive director of the Phyllis Wheatley, and she was just thrilled to know that we were doing some work like this.
Well, and it's her father and grandfather that built Riverview. If you're
Hmm.
talking about Suzanne, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, and she's a powerful light in our community as well. I tell you that mention, family. You're so right, Sean. My family put a surprise 50th birthday party for me
Okay.
at the Riverview. So
Okay.
it's personal for me. That space is personal, and I love what Tim uh, Baylor had done in creating the housing units there, and love what he's doing now on my block on 18th and Broadway, or on Bryant, between 18th and Broadway. So a lot of good stuff is happening. But with the parks, you mentioned water. I'm reading, Sean, a book by someone that you might know, Brother Seba Ahmed Azahir. You know who he is? I
Doesn't
know
ring a
you know
bell.
Atun. You know Atun,
I do.
Brother
I do it
Atun,
too. Yeah.
her husband,
Okay.
and her teacher. But the book is called the 3 books of African knowledge, or 3 books of Akefren. Uh, and it goes back to the history and to cosmology, to creation theories. And I bring this up because you identified what the water means to us. And that book really goes where you went at a multiple of 15 or 20 or 1,000, and talks about in the African view of the world, the origin of the world is called Num, Num, which is water, the great water that's undifferentiated, that all comes from, and which is the basis. So your comment there just reminded me of what I'm reading now from Brother Seba uh, uh, Azahir, and talking about our relationship with the water. And our relationship with the water is a relationship with the Creator,
Mm.
with the forces that created the Creator. And I think
Hmm.
that's something that we feel we intuitively know, but we have to reteach and relearn so that we understand the language of the creation story, differently from what has emerged in iterations of it that occurred thousands of years after our original creation story. Anyway, that's an aside. I can go for days in that. Tom Evers, talk about, if you would, the difference of and the relationship between the park board and the Parks Foundation. How do you all support each other and support
Yeah,
the
it's a
community?
good question. I think a lot of folks don't, first off, know that the Parks Foundation exists. We're relatively new in terms of city structures. We're only about 20 years old.
Mhm.
We're an independent nonprofit, so we have a board that's separate than the park board, but we partner with them, and we're their enduring partner, philanthropic partner, to help raise additional funds to do big things, to help them and help the community accomplish big things in their park system. We work with donors who want to be generous. We work with community. Our mission is to transform lives through parks and public space by aligning community vision and philanthropic investment. And you really need both to be successful. So it's not just coming up with money to do things that people with money want to do. And it's not just coming up with great ideas that might not be achievable, but to align the two together, you can do great things. And so a great example of that is this work along a small example is this work along the overlook and the trail, in that we know that the community wants to be connected to the river, but we also need to continue to tell stories, to invite people down, to invite people to a space that wasn't public before and now is. So people understand, the community understands that this is now public land and available. We've really partnered with them on River First. That's a big project. We're also working with the park board and the community on looking at the future for North Commons. We have a fund called the People for Parks Fund, and it'd be great for people to know that we make grants each year to the community to do interesting activations and innovations in the parks. And so we are here to help make sure that the park system reaches its highest aspirations in partnership with the park board. And I do want to step back, because the park board is, I think a lot of folks, every day I'm in a conversation, people don't learning this for the first time, is that in Minneapolis, we're different than most cities in America in that we have an independently elected park board. Most cities, you've got a parks department that's under the mayor of the city. But in Minneapolis, we've separated the two because we've from the founding of the industrial city that we understood parks were really important to who we will be and who we are as a city. So we've got another municipality called the Park Board, which is responsible for all our parks, for the trees on public land, for the programming. And so we have a direct line that's there. Our role is to help support that system to make sure that the community can help achieve its missions as best we can in partnership with them. And
That's
this is just
awesome.
one demonstration.
That's awesome. I'm Alan McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Alan McFarlane. My guests are Sean Lewis, who and his colleague Tom Evers with the Minneapolis Parks Foundation. We started the conversation talking about a project that is presenting to the community. That's the kind of the progress work on the 26th Avenue project. 26th Avenue runs from the city west down to the river. It's kind of like, and the bikeway that's there is kind of like the North Minneapolis version of the what's the 28th Street in South Minneapolis? What's it called?
The Midtown
The Midway.
Greenway.
Yeah.
Midtown. So that's kind of our side, our version of that to some degree. Is that right,
Mhm.
John?
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. That this is the north side's version of the Midtown Greenway. So, Tom, you were going to say something?
No, I was just saying that it's the Midtown Greenway, that it is its counterpart to it.
We got some pictures. Why don't you guys tell us, narrate these pictures, tell us what's going on. Go ahead and show them, Yasmin.
So for me, on the right side is Robbie. He's the head of the Juxta's environmental lab that they have. And then these are the apprentices. And I like the fact that they are called apprentices, that they're being compensated for their time, but they're, you know, before they came up with this mural of coming up with the river view, they had to do a lot of brainstorming. They had to think about a lot of concepts, a lot of terms, and maybe going one way, maybe going another way. But then they finally settled on the term that they thought that would have multiple meetings to multiple people, which is the term Riverview. And so to see our young people, spending time as a cohort, as a group, making a positive contribution to the community is so powerful. And having Centerpoint Energy play a role in that, because we were very excited about using their fence. This is private property, and they had requirements that had to take place. One of them was that whatever artwork was created, that it could be see-through and stuff like that. So they met all the requirements of the client, and they're very excited about what has taken place. Their community relations persons, and there's an individual that also sits on the Great Northern Greenway, and he was excited as well, and was a good shepherd for us with Centerpoint Energy. And the Great Northern Greenway, as Tom said, it's about how do we connect North Minneapolis with Northeast? And so they've been at it for quite some time, and I'm the staff support for that particular group. And hopefully we'll be able to figure out a way, there's a railroad bridge across, but to reconnect communities so they can be part of a whole.
Right now, the connection is the Lowry Bridge, the 42nd Street Bridge, and then also, obviously, the Plymouth Avenue and downtown bridges, correct?
Yeah, and there is informally, there's a Burlington Northern has a rail bridge, which I know it's not it's public, it's private land, but you will see people using it. We can't condone that, but I know that it is an informal route. And there is in the big vision down the road is Al, I appreciate that you bringing up the Midtown Greenway, because I think that gets a lot of attention, and it's a great asset in the city.
It's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
On the north side, there should be a similar one, and getting across the river will be an important aspect. And there's the park board has even begun looking at doing some early design analysis to see if you can add a bridge that's pedestrian oriented across the river, because connecting Northeast to North Minneapolis through bikes and pedestrians could be powerful for our city.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Listen, any other projects you want to call attention to right now? What else? You mentioned North Commons. What's going on with North Commons?
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit, and Sean, please add in too. But we know that there's a big vision for the park board, and the communities come together for a big vision for North Commons Park. Right now, currently has one gym. There's a desire to increase the amount of gym space. The water park needs an update, and the park board has been working on building a big plan for that. I believe that they will be bringing this fall forward 1 or 2 plans for the commissioners to approve and move forward. There's a funding gap, as is many infrastructure projects. This has already gotten more public investment than any other neighborhood park already, but we're going to be advocating for more. When completed, I think the big vision that's laid out in the plan and that they're hoping to bring forward is an updated recreation center, community center with multiple gyms, possibly 3 or 4 gyms that can be used for tournaments, especially when you combine them with the other gyms that are being added to the community. An updated water park, and really make it the community hub that North Commons, I mean, it has been since 1907 center in North Minneapolis. It's been a park since 1907. And so we're partnering with the community and the park board, and Sean's been doing a lot of work just talking to the different entities, agencies, people who use and operate around the park. Because if we think about not just the park space, but it as a campus of different assets that are focused on the community, particularly the kids in the community, we think there's a lot of potential there and we're sort of waiting for the park board to bring forward the idea. And then we want to lean in with the community to make sure that the investment's there to make it happen. But Sean, do you want to add? You've been working alongside.
Yeah, I think one of the things that to keep in mind, it was the community. It was people who work in the entities of the Y, which is right across the street from North Commons Park, and the North Community High School, which is right across the street on the southern end of the park. They saw themselves as a entity that should be looking at working together, and there are some things that they have done to mutually support each other. And as of now, and the term may change later, we come up with a term campus committee, in which we're trying to say North Commons is a centerpiece, but it has these powerful assets, north of it and south of it, and how they can work together in a collaborative manner. How they can each bring their individual strengths, in which collectively they can have a powerful impact on people who use those facilities, whether indoor, outdoor, or nearby. So we've had 2 meetings with the campus committee to begin to explore the possibilities and the opportunities of working together collectively. And I think that's a very powerful concept, that if they can mutually reinforce each other, if they can share resources together to make the area viable, to make the area safer than it already is, and to make it where we want to connect with not only the opportunities today and tomorrow, but also a little with the past. And so, Al, if you know of anyone who really have fond memories of being involved in North Commons Park, I definitely would like to meet and chat with them and learn more about them, because I know there's hidden stories. I know there's powerful connections that people have with that park. One of the reporters from one of the local stations that was covering the release of the concept plans on January 10th. And he says, hey, I went to this park. That's where I learned how to swim. And so we need to get those stories, and we need to bring them into the work that we do, and more of resurfacing, reminding, reconnecting, and making it possible for people to feel comfortable with what's taking place.
That's interesting, Sean. I remember taking my kids to swim at North Commons, and that was a few years ago. And I remember hanging out with Van White, city council member, up at North Commons at the pool there. So you are absolutely correct. Lots of stories, lots of memories, and I think that if we figure out ways to elevate those, we'll be inspired to dream about just more magnificent futures that really celebrate us as a community, as people. I say this all the time, Sean. I call North Minneapolis a Black community, but my concept of us being a Black community is sort of a genuine and authentic concept, because from my point of view, that means our community is one that embraces and encompasses everybody, and that the people that I have as neighbors and friends and even family members who are not Black see themselves as members of the Black community. It's not a negative, it's a positive. And I think that's what we are doing and have to do, is continue to say we value the brilliance and the resilience and the beauty of the culture. And this culture really is making a statement, not only in our lives, but globally, in terms of music, art, creativity, and we don't know it, but in terms of science and education and philosophy. And it's up to us to keep highlighting our prowess in those areas, and not to diminish anybody else's contribution, but to enhance the mutual capabilities of all of us as neighbors and as co-creators of the reality that we desire and that we deserve. So listen, guys, I want to thank you both for what you do. Thank you for being here. And please, with your permission, keep calling you back, because I so enjoy your voice, your vision, your work, and I thank you.
Thank you, Al. It's an honor to be on your show, and the conversation is just an asset too. So it's really appreciated from our side too.
Yeah, and thank you, Al, for the invite. And I've always enjoyed interacting with you. And you're one of the best moderators, hosts out there in the media world.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Listen, we'll talk to you guys later. I'm Al McFarlane.
Yep.
This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I want to pivot now and bring in my colleague and partner in this work, and that's Coach Leah Jean Denley. Coach Leah, how you doing?
I am fabulous. And guess what I remember to do? Not be on mute.
Good.
I shouldn't even mentioned it, but anyway, thanks so much for having me join you today. I hear you've got some topics that you'd like for me to talk about with you today.
I do, and a couple of things. Just I wanted to take some time. Usually we got 10 minutes or 5 minutes at the end of the program, but I wanted to take some more time to sit with you and really hear your thoughts and commentary on women's sports in particular, but sports in general, and the value that a new awareness, a new opportunity mean to all of us as sports participants, as fans, and as parents and as students. So just kind of generally, a lot of people were focused on FIFA. Can you give us an update on what happened at FIFA and what it is and why it's important?
So I probably can't give you a expert opinion or feedback on that, with the exception to say something that occurred to me last night, that where the United States seems to be in the forefront of having the most talented athletes, especially, and also with USA basketball, many of the women's teams at the lower divisions, the younger divisions, did not receive the gold medal this past year. And to my knowledge, the men are having a heck of a time right now on the basketball side as well. And so, it's something to think about when we're talking about, again, how small the world is, first of all, and how, for us to think that we're the best and then not truly try to put the work in to continue to elevate is something that I just wanted to just kind of bring to the forefront, because I thought I seriously had a long kind of sit with myself in thinking about that.
Well, I think you sent me, or the producer sent me, this article but called "She's Got Game." Women's sports are booming, and it's what you just said. Kind of surprising that the U.S. team got an early exit from the World Cup, but that doesn't mean you won't be seeing women's sports because you're going to see more and more and more. Let me read a couple of paragraphs of this article by Tim Basinger and Sarah Fisher. And it's in the publication Axios under Economy and Business, an article published August 11th, 2023. And they say, not to be left out of the girl power summer, women's sports have been raking in new deals and partnerships in the U.S. and beyond. Why it matters? If you thought that the U.S. national team's early exit from the World Cup meant you wouldn't be seeing women's sports for a while, think again. The state of play? The casual observer sees USWNT dominate media coverage of women's sports, but other teams and sports are attracting new dollars and eyeballs. For example, the National Women's Soccer League is going to add new teams next year in Utah and San Jose. Former Meta executive Sheryl Sandberg was part of the group that invested, get this, $125 million in the San Jose-based Bay Football Club, Bay FC. And then she said, or the commissioner of Axel said, we believe we're at the beginning of the hockey stick effect in the growth of National Women's Soccer League, NWSL. This is what the commissioner told Axios during a game in Cairns, I think. For the second year in a row, the league's champion match will air in prime time on CBS in December. Same thing in basketball, it goes on to say, and things like selling TV rights for NCAA basketball tournament separately from the rest of the championships. And what else? Well, let me turn it over to you, Coach Leah. I mean, the money is showing up in a way that means everybody got to pay more attention to the power of women's athletics. So explain that. What was the background and where does this change emerge from?
So, I give a lot of credit to the owners of the Minnesota Timberwolves and Minnesota Lynx in saying that, early on when the Carlsons brought on the Lynx as far as part of their package, many of these owners didn't realize that, they did realize it, but they didn't understand the power of still having the parity with the men and the women, but realized that the women's would probably be in the red. You know what I'm saying? They would probably be in the red as far as bringing in the revenue that was going to, keep them in the black for that particular line item per se, right? And so, but they believed in that product, and look what that belief yielded them for championships. You see what I'm saying? And so it's very important for when people are thinking about investing in women's sports, that it's a different product, but it's a very lucrative product, and it's a very smart product. You know what I'm saying? And so, but now a lot of people are realizing that in across the sports spectrum. I believe that I was just told by my business partner and dear friend Sylvia Crawley that the Dallas Wings now have a major player in the gyms, which is and the gyms are actually on their uniform, and you have to be a very significant sponsor to be able to have your name and likeness on the jersey of especially that prominently of a team. You know what I'm saying? So that's a commitment that they're showing. They're saying, hey, we've committed. We need you guys to commit too. I credit Mark Cuban as well, because the Dallas Wings are very much a part of the Dallas Mavericks. And so, it's one of those things where as people continue to realize how, I want to say the word smart, how smart the women's product is, I believe that's where we will continue to see a lot more of major players sponsoring and promoting women's sports.
Take a minute to talk about the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame and the tributes they're doing for the 2023 Hall of Fame class. So what about that?
Yes, I was so delighted to see the 1976 women's Olympic basketball team, which was the first. They won a silver that year, and they were enshrined in this year's 2023 Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. And so that was in itself wonderful, right? But then I saw countless of the men who were standing up, giving their speeches, their acceptance speeches, honoring that same team and honoring the legacy of those women and how important they are, not just to women's sports, but to the sports landscape as a whole. So that was really, really nice. From Dwayne Wade to Paul Gasol to, I mean, just so many of them were giving tributes to that team. And so that was really nice to see.
Well, let's use that to have you go back, Coach Leah, and talk about the development, the evolution of women's sports in particular. To me, it goes back in part to, is it what, Title IX? Is Title, or is it?
So Title IX was established to deliver equity between men's and women's sports. Mm-hmm. And that was so important. We're still celebrating the 50th year of that. And gosh, I mean, you would think that that's been such a long time ago, but that's not really that long ago. Mm-mm. And what that did is it provided, so for instance, if you had a men's team and you were able to offer 12 scholarships, and then with the women's program, you never really thought about that. It was, not even a thought. Now you've got to also establish 12 scholarships on the women's side. And so that equity became necessary on both sides. And you've got women that, obviously are still living today that were at the forefront of Title IX. It's incredible to me to know that I played myself in the 4th NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I think about that, I'm just like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? The 4th Division I NCAA tournament. And so, and I don't like to think that I'm that old, but to see the evolution, and when I go back to cover the women's tournament, and then again in any sports across the spectrum, to see the popularity, to see the fan bases. Well, and then I also always talk about anybody that's a true fan of sports loves women in sports, because there's something about how women participate. Their reason for participating, number one, the way they participate, the way we use our athleticism to our athleticism and our understanding of how to play the game as the more important thing, as opposed to just the power in the game. The power is still important, but I feel like people that are truly sports junkies, or that truly are students of any sport, truly love the women's game, because you're able to see the art of that.
And so one of the questions I have is, what would you say the role then has been for women athletes in reshaping the overall sports culture? And what can we expect to learn from both the experience and the leadership that's emerged? And put this into context, Coach Leah. Mm-hmm. You said you were in only the earliest of the 4th, NCAA tournament, right? You're in the 4th one. But what happened a generation before that? What was our country's mindset? Maybe what was the world's mindset about whether women should be in sports or whether they belong, in competition? I was listening to a show on public radio this week, and it was of, I think, a young, well, I can't even remember. I think it was young, maybe a young woman athlete who was playing hockey, but she talked about how when she was a kid, the boys said, you can't play, girls can't play, and just the thought of her being a hockey player was poo-pooed, didn't make sense. So I think it's amazing and powerful and wonderful that, the country is awakening from the stupidity, of dismissing all of the talent and genius that they've just written off for no good reason outside of a selfish, ego trip. What do you think?
Whew, okay, so that's a lot to unpack.
Mhm.
As you were saying that, so many things came to mind. I want to pivot slightly to talk about I'm going to go back to the Naismith, and Becky Hammond was honored, and she is the head coach currently of the Aces, the Las Vegas Aces, world champion Las Vegas Aces, and she's a former assistant coach of the NBA San Antonio Spurs. And it just so happens that their head coach Popovich was also in this class. And so, how cool is that to have the first woman ever to coach an NBA team honored with the same coach that was historic in making that hire. Okay, so that's the first thing that's really, really cool. And so Becky talked about, who is not even as old as me, talked about her having to play with the boys to have fun and be competitive. And that's something that I remember doing all the time too. And one of my guests after Coach Lee is After the Whistle tomorrow, Brett McNeil, is somebody growing up who I was out there at, by the way, North Commons.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to
Yep.
Sean Lewis, who was just a guest with you. And Sean, I have plenty of stories to tell you about North Commons. So definitely get at your girl, because we've got some fun stories. Cynthia Wilson, who was the director there for many, many years, and did a phenomenal job, who was a former University of Minnesota basketball player herself, was the director at North Commons. But pivoting back, when we think about how we've had to, because we had such a love of sports, and early on seeing so many men who were our idols for this generation, and mine was Dr. J. I had a picture of Dr. J that I took with me everywhere, all my camps. It was on my wall in my bedroom. I mean, that's who I tried to emulate my game after.
Okay, all right.
But that's But now to see our young girls to now be able to have females that are visible, and again, a lot of it, of course, would have to do with the technology. We have a lot more visibility. And so these girls can see themselves in other women that they see in the different sports, which it is what it is. So it's kind of a couple things. It's the visibility, but then it's also the accessibility. And more of us women are getting older and are in positions of authority, for lack of a better word, position of exposure, where now we can provide other opportunities. One of the things that I'm just a really, really great trend, and I really hope I'm staying on topic, is I'm trying to as best as I can. Like I said, there's so much to unpack.
Sure.
One of the things that I'm seeing is that many former female athletes are, guess what? Many of the front office executives in sports across the board. So what you have are former people that have played the sport, actually played the sport, right? You've got them becoming experts because they've also got the business acumen. They've gone to school, they finished their degrees, and multiple, like myself, multiple degrees, because unfortunately / fortunately, we have to achieve more to even become equal, But so we're many times over educated, but it's okay because we just love being in the space. But we bring so much because of those things that now Fortune 500 companies are capitalizing on by female former athletes. And you're seeing a huge trend in that right now across the board.
That's awesome. And a lot of it now is an opportunity about branding, right? Building a successful brand is really essential for women's athletes and teams. And so what do you think are the successful initiatives and strategies that women can use to enhance, their visibility, their marketability, and personal brands? How does it happen?
So with NIL, and I talk about that a lot, I'm so fascinated by that. And NIL stands for name, image, and likeness. At the collegiate levels, where you're seeing it in the forefront the most, and you're seeing where Angel Reese, who plays for LSU. They just won a national championship. You're seeing her and Flau'jae Johnson a lot right now. Well, they're using their name, image, and likeness in brands, corporations, companies, retailers. Everybody are jumping on the bandwagon with them because they're very popular right now. So they're leveraging that to elevate their personal brand, but their personal brand is obviously elevating the brands of whatever product, service, that they're connecting with. Correct?
Okay.
And so that is one way.
So how much money is on the table right now? How big is this market? What's
it's
are there any
it's
benchmarks?
It's in the six figures. It's in the six figures now. Our other homegirl, Paige Beckers, who played at Hopkins, who is now playing for Connecticut. At one time, when she was coming right out of high school, was the highest earning young lady in the NIL space. Well, she's been injured off and on, but she's back. I see her blazing another trail, another level as well, because she's just a phenomenal young lady, understanding how to leverage her personal brand with connecting with the right types of products. And it's so much money right now. It's crazy. We could go. That question right there is a whole segment.
Sure.
So, yeah. So, Dietrich Collins Parker and I talked about that. She was a recent guest on Coach Leah's After the Whistle, dear friend of mine. We talked about that a little bit. And if you guys want to go back and learn more about our conversation about NIL and how that's changed the landscape and the ability for marketing, especially on the women's side, be sure to check that episode out. But I'd love to pivot, speaking of her, if I could, to make mention of the Hawaii wildfires.
Yeah.
So Dietrich Collins played for the University of Hawaii and has tons of connections with, friends and her former college roommate was affected by the most recent wildfire. And so our hearts and thoughts go out to everybody who is reeling from that and has been affected by that. And then I also wanted to, but her roommate is safe. She did have to evacuate, but she is now living with family, and she's okay. So we're really happy to hear about that. Great. But I recently received an email from one of my emergency and disaster response partners at Operation Blessing this morning, and they're wanting everybody to really be thoughtful about visiting Hawaii right now and allowing for the resources, the hotels, the rental cars, any resources that are already already in the Hawaii area, which are sparse, to go to the people who are trying to recover, as opposed to people trying to come in and help. It's not time for us to go in and help. There are other ways for us to go in and help. And so if you're able to go to Operation Blessing, and you'll be able to read and see about ways that you can help, and not necessarily be on the spot or in Hawaii at this time. But so
you can help from wherever you are. Wherever you are, you can help, and this is how you do it. What's coming up again tomorrow in your show?
So I've got three dear friends. I just love my 1 degree of separation from all these folks. But I've got the Reverend Chris Moore. I've got Mitchell Brock and then Brett McNeil. They were going to appear on the show in the opposite order of how long I've known them. So Brett is a collegiate former Hall of Famer from our hometown of Minneapolis, Minnesota. He was hasn't been inducted to the Collegiate Hall of Fame, and he is now the Associate Athletic Director for the Minneapolis Public Schools. So proud of him. And then I've got Mitchell Brock, former friend of mine, former colleague. We co-hosted a show where I was a guest host, I should say, for Bring the Pain Sports. And he's a former minor league professional football player, and he's now a nutritional coach. And I'm so proud of him, known him since the time I've moved here to the area of Houston, Texas. And then I've got the Reverend Chris Moore, who is an educator and high school basketball coach. He's a former player from Texas Southern University, and just has a great story and loves to talk about sports. I mean, we both attend Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church and can spend hours talking about sports and anything LeBron James, because we both love LeBron James. So that's going to be a great show tomorrow. Be sure to tune in on either the YouTube, our Insight News, or Black Press USA YouTube channels, or Facebook Live, or just go back and watch any of these episodes at your leisure. We are winding up season 1 already, believe it or not. So we'll go on a hiatus, but season 2, oh my God, we've got so many phenomenal people coming on for season 2 of Coach Lee's After the Whistle.
Well, what a wonderful and powerful season 1 so far. So great job. I'm excited by what you do and what you represent and your vision for elevating, sort of a new consciousness, a new awareness about sports and women in sports in particular. And I think your voice, Coach Leah, is absolutely powerful and necessary. So keep up the good work, and thank you for being part of the team and letting me be part of your team. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm just so proud of you and your elevated sports acumen, Al.
That's right. I'm learning. Well, listen, thank you. Everybody tune in tomorrow. Make the invitation again.
So Coach Lee is After the Whistles, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, and that's where we're live. If you go in live, you can ask your questions and everything, but if you don't get a chance to catch us live, catch us anytime on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or your favorite podcast where you can listen in on Apple, Amazon, and Spotify.
Coach Leah, thank you so much. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you.
I'm Al McFarlane. You've been listening to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. Let me close out by reminding you once again that our friends over at the Department of Health want you to think about being safe, and they are providing free vaccine for COVID and flu. A clinic at CAPI OIC at 5930 Brooklyn Boulevard, Brooklyn Center. The flu shot dates are August 24th, September 14th, and September 27th and October 12th. Anyone that's 6 months old and older can get a flu shot. They're providing COVID vaccines as well. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Take care.